Hi there, I'm Alex Belinsky. I'm excited to share some crazy and spiritual and funny experiences that missionaries have had in the Peru Trujillo mission. I hope you enjoy. Hannah, seeing people get robbed, it happened a lot, but never to me, hearing gunshots in adjacent street. Dogs. Sometimes dogs would be really vicious and the only way to stop them from attacking us was to bend over and pick up a rock, or pretend to if there's no rocks available, and throw it at them, or pretend to, and then run for your life. David. My companion Elder Castro and I were on our way to a baptismal service when a guy on the side of the road asked what time it was. We slowed down to tell him when he grabbed Elder Castro's arm and pulled out a sharpened piece of rebar and told us to give him all our money. At first I didn't realize what was happening, but it all caught up and I realized that we were being mugged. We gave him all that we had and he started to rummage through our backpacks and asking for cell phones. We told him we didn't have any cell phones, and by then the man we were teaching that was going to be baptized saw what was happening and came down and scared the guy off. Then we went to his baptism. Steve. There are parts of the city that are dangerous, and I was in an area where shootings occurred regularly. I can honestly say, though, that we were protected. Sometimes we would get a feeling to not go down a certain street that we usually would go, and even though things happened near us at times, we were always safe. Matt. Getting robbed, walking through a bad area of town, I lost about $3. Trujillo experienced a flood that washed out the graveyard. Because the graveyard was in sand, the flood washed out a number of caskets and bodies through Trujillo. We spent a full day helping people bail water out of garages, homes that were below street level. Jonathan. Other than everything involved with being an American in Peru, smiley face, my first day and subsequent week in the mission was insane by my reckoning. As we arrived to the mission office, we were told that everybody in my group would be close to the main offices except for one. One of us would be sent to Chimbote, roughly 2 hours away from by bus. I knew that was me, and I was right. I boarded the bus with one other American on his first transfer and a Peruvian. Since my ability to process the language was spotty at best, I pretty much stuck to the American guy. He told me that we'd know where we were getting close to Chimbote when we could start smelling it. I thought he was joking. But about 15 minutes before we got there, I could start to smell the most foul thing ever. The bus dropped us off in the middle of the busiest street. The other two elders grabbed their bags and just started walking across the street in between all the traffic. I just stood there dumbfounded as the bus drove away and traffic was zipping around me, honking at the stupid American. Finally, I followed. We wandered around for nearly an hour. The zone leader was supposed to have met us, but it took him a while to find us. The other American and I went with the zone leader, and the other elder went off with his companion. Apparently, my companion was deathly ill, and the other American's companion was hanging out with him until we arrived. Upon arriving to my new home, the elder staying with my trainer stuck his head out the window and said, "Oh man, your companion's so sick. He's been puking his guts out." Welcome to the mission, I thought. I spent the next week only leaving the house twice. Once to go with my companion to the clinic, whereupon he received a shot in his bottom from the clinic doctor, and once to pick up his medicine. Our pensionista would bring meals at all the appropriate times. I'd answer the door and able to communicate with them except basic hola and gracias. I heavily questioned what I'd got myself into. By the time I left the area 6 months later, I was able to communicate quite well. Everybody always has a good laugh at my expense. How everything started there. We're all good friends now. Robbie. My companion and I knocked on the door of a compound in Juarez where the Sport Encash professional soccer team lived. We thought they would tell us to go away, but they opened the gate and told us to come on in. We were able to teach almost the entire team on the spot. They were kind to us and even invited us to come back anytime during soccer season. That's way cool. Hannah. Watching people riding bikes dragging 25-foot long construction rebar behind them in a road and watching the sparks flying off. Getting in a super broken down taxi where the floor is completely missing and I had to put my feet on a random bar. Seeing moss growing on power lines. And the fact that the power lines are in a giant knot. Cutting the patch of grass in front of the house with a meat cleaver or a machete. David. One time Elder Rios and Elder Anderson scheduled 2 lunches for themselves when we were in Juarez, and so they asked Elder Rodriguez and I to help them eat at lunchtime. However, we had just finished our own lunch, And then we had to help them eat their lunch. I was pretty stuffed, as lunches there can be pretty filling. I had just barely finished what I could, and Elder Rios that I was full, and told Elder Rios that I was full. The sister that made the lunch asked what I said, and before I could respond, it was my second transfer and my Spanish wasn't amazing. Elder Rios told her I loved it so much that I wanted more. She gave me more. I about died trying to finish it. Steve, we always had family home evening when members were investigators and we would play games. They like to have what they call castigos, which are punishments for those who lose. One of my favorites was the loser would have to go out in the street and yell, "My pig just died! My pig is dead!" in Spanish, obviously. And the best time was when a guy went out and all his neighbors were outside. He was so embarrassed he hurried and yelled it and came running inside as fast as he could. Matt, a native companion taught me a fun response that I could appropriately use when drunks yelled at us. It occasionally initiated a few street contacts. Jonathan, this is a big one. Several, probably urban legends stand us by this point. One time we were helping an anciently elderly woman build onto her house and had a chain gang of missionaries passing bricks from one to another in order to help them get to the roof. I was near the top of the chain gang, and so a lot of brick dust was flying around by the time it got to me. I had a tiny speck of brick dust fly into my eye, and for the life of me, I just couldn't get it out. I tried crying it out, washing it out, flapping my eyelids, etc. I resigned myself to needing to call the office and see what they wanted me to do. We went down into the main house area, and luckily this lady had a phone, so my companion called the office while I sat on the couch, still messing around with my eye. The withered old lady came over and asked if she could look at it. Figuring there was nothing she could do that I hadn't already done, I let her. She grabbed the top and bottom eyelid with each of her hands and forced my eye open, and then, to my absolute horror, stuck her tongue into my eye and licked it. My companion was giving a play-by-play to the assistant to the president on the other end of the line. To her credit, she removed the dust from my eye, along with what dignity I had left. My companion didn't want to leave things alone, so he asked her how she learned to do that. Her answer, "When you get to be my age, you learn a thing or two." I think she just wanted to lick an American's eye personally. 2. There is an older video game called Monkey Island, and in one of the games in this series, they have a story about a giant devil chicken that terrorizes the islanders. In my third area, I met such a chicken at my pensionista's home. I'd never before seen such a massive chicken, and I needed to get a picture of it and send home to my older brother. I made a smaller sign on a piece of paper, handed my camera to my companion, and proceeded to chase the chicken around the backyard. To tell it from my companion's point of view, there I was chasing this chicken around as he watched through the viewfinder on the camera when all of a sudden I disappeared. He put the camera down to find me up to my shoulders in a hole, dazed. As I sat there, I realized what had happened. The chicken ran across a piece of wood covering a hole, and because I was significantly heavier than the chicken, I fell through into the septic tank. Luckily, I caught myself with my arms. I couldn't feel the bottom of the hole, and I was up to my knees in human excrement. I climbed out of the hole, and the chicken just stood there, secretly laughing, I'm sure. I was able to pose with the chicken and have my picture taken. We went home and showered off fully clothed, then took my soiled clothing to the laundry lady and paid her extra to clean it all for me. At my last testimony zone conference, I closed with, "Ya me voy a casa, voy a hacer un truque, my placa por una flaca." From what I understood, the mission president quoted that every single conference until he went home. Ravi, my stomach was hurting while hiking up to Churup. I couldn't hold it in any longer and had to use the bathroom right off the trail. I had to use the hard Andean grass. Sorry if that was a little crude. Hannah, I loved visiting less active members. I found a name on one of the lists that stuck out to me and determined we should go visit the family. It was a mother and her adult son. They welcomed us into their home, and we determined that they had been offended by some members 25 years ago and had never gone back to church. They had had very few visitors from the church come to see them and had forgotten many things. We helped bring back their testimonies and get them reactivated in the church. It was an experience that I will not easily forget. I watched them change and saw their hearts soften. There's nothing more beautiful than seeing the atonement work in a life. David, I remember one time we were teaching someone about our age whose grandparents and aunts and uncles were members, but whose parents were not. He loved what we were teaching, came to church and wanted to learn more and more, but didn't want to get baptized until he knew more of the gospel and had read the Book of Mormon completely. We kept teaching all that we could because we just loved him, but eventually we hit a point where there wasn't really any more we could teach him, and he would just need to get a testimony for himself and decide whether or not he wanted to be baptized. We expressed our love for him and that we understood his concerns. We explained that there wasn't more we could teach him, and he would have to get testimony for himself and act on the testimony he received. We bore our testimonies and then just waited to hear what he had to say. After what seemed like forever, and after letting the Spirit do the teaching for a while, he simply asked when he could be baptized. I cried. He said he knew it was all true. It was true, and they just needed to take the step of faith and be baptized. He was baptized and is still doing well today. That's awesome. Steve, having all our appointments fall through, one after the other all morning, with nothing else planned and no ideas for what to do next, we decided to visit an elderly sister who lived in a shack made of poles and woven mats. I have no idea why, but we went and found that part of her roof had collapsed and she was unable to fix it. When we arrived, she was crying and said, "My angels are here." We were able to dig a hole and put in a new wooden pole and get the roof fixed. A couple months later, the whole branch got together to get new mats on her whole house. I didn't realize it at the time, but all those failed appointments led us to her in the worst moment of her life. Matt, after opening Otusco as a new area, we taught the adult children in the family and their children. In one case, the mother and children wanted to be baptized and the father asked to talk with us. Over the course of about 35 minutes, my companion and I talked about why membership was important. I talked about how beneficial being a member of the church was while his primary age. The Spirit testified to that father of the blessings to come, and his family was baptized the following Sunday. Jonathan, the mission, of course, was full of them. One of the strongest ones for me, though, was in my first area. We were walking down the street, and some chick kept calling out to us. We were far enough away that we couldn't hear what she was saying, so we figured she was just catcalling us, and we kept moving. She hurried to catch up, and when she yelled, "Elderes!" we realized she at last had an inkling of who we were. We turned and closed the gap to talk to her. It turns out she had received all the discussions in Piura, but had moved to Chimbote right before being able to be baptized. She really wanted to be baptized. We were still a bit leery, but went ahead and made an appointment and quizzed her about the charlas. She was able to intelligently answer everything, so we figured she really did have a desire beyond speaking with a couple of gringos. Since we weren't present for the original discussions, we decided we'd probably better go back through them before moving on to baptism. Her uncle joined one day after we were 3 to 4 charlas in, so we gave him a condensed first discussion and a Book of Mormon along with a reading assignment and a follow-up appointment. He seemed pretty much evato, so we didn't expect much out of him. A few days later, as all our appointments were falling through, I mentioned to my companion that we should go check up on this girl's uncle and see if he read his assignment and wanted to continue the discussions. I suppose I was young enough and not cynical enough yet to have the same thoughts as my companion. He was ready to write him off. We visited him. To our utter surprise, not only had he read the assignment we gave him, but he read the entire book of 3rd Nephi and memorized about half of it. He told us he wanted to be baptized. We spent the next couple of months teaching him and working through some challenges he had, but ultimately he was baptized and actually asked and went proselyting with us after he had the 3rd discussion. He entered the mission field shortly after I came home and continues to be a strong member of the church, as does his niece. Robbie, having fasted and prayed to know where to go, my companion and I remembered a trail we had seen. We decided to go find the trail, and when we started up the trail, we found a man that accepted our message and was baptized 2 weeks later. That man has since gone to the temple and completed baptisms for the dead and has been an amazing missionary in the village. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this video with stories from the Peru Trujillo mission. If you are a returned missionary from the Trujillo mission and are willing to, we'd love for you to fill out a survey at preparetoserve.com/survey. There's an embedded Google form there that you can fill out, and then we'll go through it and then we'll post it on the website. to help act as a resource for pre-missionaries, returned missionaries, their families, etc. If you're willing to be video interviewed about your mission, we'd love to do that. We do the video interviews in Utah, and they usually last about an hour. So if you're interested, feel free to just comment or message the YouTube channel or the website or a Facebook page. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a splendiferous day. Bye-bye.